Hello and welcome to another edition of the Comic Anthologist. And if you're tuning in for the first time, please hit the subscribe button to show you your support. Now today, we are going to discuss the Ghost Rider. And he made his debut in, what was that?
Marvel Spotlight number 5, 1972.
Yes, and that version happened to be Johnny Blaze.
First Ghost Rider was known as the Phantom Rider, which he was basically a Western, like the Old West type version of the Ghost Rider. Riding around in on a white horse and had himself like dressed up in luminescent garb, but it didn't have like the supernatural elements like Marvel had incorporated with like the new Ghost Rider, or I wouldn't say the new Ghost Rider, but when Johnny Blaze came out, they set that one up to have like supernatural elements.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the story of the Ghost Rider basically goes as such as that Johnny Blaze was part of the circus with his father Barton Blaze, and basically he discovered that his father had cancer, and so he basically made a deal with the devil at the time, which eventually is revealed in the comic books that it was Mephisto, the character known as Mephisto, which is Marvel's version of the devil. Basically, he signed his soul away to try to save his dad's life,
yes,
to cure him of the cancer. Now, once he signed his soul off to do that, what Mephisto did was double-cross him, because Barton Blaze still died not from his cancer, but from like an accident that went down when he was performing at the motorcycle accident circus show.
Because it crashed basically, and it's showing basically that Johnny Blaze got, like he said, he got double-crossed.
Yeah, because it's like you make a deal with the devil, you're always going to lose.
No matter what.
Yep.
And basically he had bonded into a foul demon called Zarathos. But bonded to Johnny Blaze, he gave him some semblance of humanity to him.
Well, the thing is too, as well, when Johnny Blaze had Zarathos bonded to him, at some point, Zarathos and Johnny Blaze, as time went on, were fighting for control of Johnny Blaze's body.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Johnny Blaze had his motorcycle initially, he would have his motorcycle and the wheels would be known as Hellfire, or be made up of Hellfire. But as time went on, because Johnny Blaze, when he becomes a Ghost Rider, he becomes a flaming skull. His head becomes a flaming skull, and he dotes out vengeance on whoever is
doing wrong in that area.
Wrong or committing a crime or doing something heinous. Now, mind you, at this time, Zarathos and Johnny, at some point, Johnny Blaze was then starting to ride as the Ghost Rider on a motorcycle completely composed purely of hell. Had nothing to do with, he would just create one out of just complete hellfire. You didn't even need a regular, typical motorcycle to jump on to do so. But then that was right towards the end of that run back in the day, because the book went from 1972 to 1983, and it spanned like 81 issues. And basically, towards the end, that's where they had the struggle between dominance over Johnny Blaze's body, until eventually Zarathos was basically purged from his body, or jumped out of Johnny Blaze's body, because Zarathos had another enemy that he wanted to go toe-to-toe with, known as Centurius, which, again, it gets a little bit complicated with these mystical storylines back in the day. And so Zarathos and Centurius both got trapped in this crystal, and Johnny Blaze was freed from the curse of the Ghost Rider for a little while. That is until the 90s hit.
And then that's when you had, in 1990, let me interject about that.
Yeah.
That's when you had the new Ghost Rider,
right,
who was now known as Danny Ketch.
To me, he's like, as far as I'm concerned, to me, he's the quintessential Ghost Rider. He's
exactly.
my most favorite one. Even though everyone favors Johnny Blaze, I like Danny Cage, because just for the simple fact,
Danny Ketch,
or not Danny Blaze, but Danny Ketch. Thank you for that. Thank you for the interjection.
Yes.
I like Danny Ketch because his Ghost Rider was mystical based too, but it wasn't a mystical based demon. His was basically he was bonded to the Marvel equivalent of the Angel of Death.
Mm.
And so Death / Judgment. And so, but it wasn't revealed until much later about that, later on down the line.
Right.
But what I liked about this Danny Ketch Ghost Rider was because the motorcycle was completely just straight badass.
Oh, heck yeah. It was the type of motorcycle that it had a shield right in front of it.
Like a battering ram.
And it'd just go straight through a bunch of cars. Even if the police tried to stop it, it would just go straight through, and you said, "You cannot stop me. I am the spirit of vengeance."
And then I also liked the fact, too, is that the duality between Danny Ketch and the spirit that he was bonded with. At one point, they were at odds with one another. Once Danny Ketch figured out what was going on. I said Cage, but I'm thinking of Nick Cage playing Johnny Blaze in the Ghost Rider movies, which we will talk about in a minute. And when Danny Ketch transformed into the Ghost Rider, the interesting fact about the Ghost Rider was that his sister was in line to become the next Ghost Rider.
Yes, she was supposed to be the one, but she ended up becoming mortally wounded that night by this group called the Death Watch. And
Death Watch Ninjas.
It was the Death Watch Ninjas.
And because they were led by the leader known as Death Watch himself.
Right. And basically, they were looking for these canisters of biotoxins that was basically he wanted to unleash upon the world, and unleash total darkness. But as fate would have it, Danny Ketch was the one trying to save his sister, covered in all her blood when she got shot with an arrow. And basically, once he saw that gas cap on top of that old motorcycle, he puts his hand on it, and history was made. He became the new Ghost Rider, and he pulled no punches. And took out those ninjas, and eventually took out Death Watch himself.
Right, because Death Watch is a villain. Basically, he thrived on death. He thrived on killing his lackeys. If they made a mistake, even if the mistake was even in the slightest, he'd sit there, break their necks, and just get off on the joy of seeing someone die or feeling them dying.
As they were,
it was like a drug for him, but I wouldn't call it a drug. It was more so like an extreme sensation, like ecstasy, to a degree. And
they were also working with a mutant, basically goes by the name of Blackout. And Blackout had the power to turn off whatever light, every room he walked into, he could turn off the light. And he could see you, but you couldn't see him. And plus he had put bionic implants in his in his mouth to create the fangs like he was a vampire, because he was obsessed with vampirism.
He was more on a level like a pseudo-vampire.
Yeah, he was obsessed with vampirism.
Right.
But that mutant ability to turn off whatever light or whatnot, he was able to dispatch and kill a whole lot of people as a result. And Ghost Rider did deal with him in an unmost pleasant fashion by burning half his face with hellfire, and also destroying the neurotoxins, biotoxins that he wanted to unleash upon the world. Right. Originally, that was supposed to be done to all the people, because Death Watch wanted to feel the ecstasy of everybody dying in that local area of that part of the city, so that way he would get his ultimate high.
Right.
But it didn't happen.
Well, let me ask you this. What was your favorite Ghost Rider story?
My favorite Ghost Rider story would definitely have to be the first one when Danny Ketch made his first appearance.
Yeah, I would have to agree. That's my favorite one.
That's my favorite one, hands down, because he was no holds barred. He just went to it and handled it and kept it moving and did not let anybody stop him. And it was just one of the coolest stories, because it was...
Might I interject?
Yeah.
My second favorite story, I would have to say, was that when he teamed up with the Punisher.
Oh,
when your favorite character.
Yes.
And one thing I liked about it was with him teaming up with the Punisher, because they were at odds at first, was basically the Punisher was looking through a sniper rifle, and he could see that the Ghost Rider had spotted him. But then he was like, wait a minute, something's wrong. And then he gets the Ghost Rider's on his bike, and he spots him. So he's like, wait a minute, it looks like he's coming towards me. And then here comes the Ghost Rider climbing up the walls with his bike. He's like, wait a minute, he is coming after me.
And that's when they go into a conflict, when they eventually figure out that they were after the same people.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were basically a team of anarchists who were trying to start a riot.
Led by a flag smasher.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. So.
And as a result, the two of them teamed up, and they both stayed off each other's radar.
Right, exactly. Now, there have been other iterations of the Ghost Rider besides Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch. There's been a female Ghost Rider. And then there's also been the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider.
It was the current incarnation.
The current incarnation that you see, they came out with. He came out with his own book on that too as well. But then you see his current incarnation, like in media, and the episodes of the Agents of Shield, especially in season 4. Now, season 4, when that had the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, I loved that one too. That was like phenomenal. But in the book, instead of the spirit of vengeance being bonded to Robbie Reyes in the book, it was the spirit of a serial killer named Eli Morrow, which was basically Robbie Reyes' uncle.
And that's basically, that was something that no one saw coming. So basically, with every iteration of Ghost Rider, it's always been a different variation, no matter what it was,
Right, exactly.
or who it was, or what spirit it was.
And the thing is that I liked about it too, that made it so different and unique too from the other Ghost Riders. He was driving a muscle car. Robbie Reyes is driving a muscle car, and I liked it, especially in the opening sequence of season 4, or like when he made his first. I wouldn't say the opening sequence of the episode, but when the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider made his appearance, you see this guy firing a rocket launcher, trying to blow up the car, coming after the guys because the wheels are on fire and is driving down the street, and the guy's being chased, and he fires a rocket right at the Robbie Reyes' car. It comes up, it blows up wherever the spot where the rocket hits on the pavement, and then the car gets up, flips up, over and back onto the ground, and just hits the ground running, still coming after those guys, which eventually he does take out. But
Yeah.
and then the final iteration of the Ghost Rider, that the current and final iteration is just like how we talked about the Punisher.
Yeah.
The final iteration now, which I'm enjoying too in the comic scene, is the Cosmic Ghost Rider. And basically, it's an older version of Frank Castle, aka the Punisher. So it's kind of like, that's why I brought the Punisher up earlier with that team up.
They combined the both of them and called him the Cosmic Ghost Rider.
And he made his debut in the recent pages of Thanos.
It was actually Thanos number 16.
Right. Actually,
Yeah, it was Thanos number 16 and number 17.
I thought it was 15.
No, it's number 16.
Okay. No, actually 14. You know why?
Why is
Because 14 was what started that whole. Well, issue 13 was Thanos Win storyline, but then issue 14 was where the Cosmic Ghost Rider finally made his appearance, and then continued on into the rest of the series.
Because he made his first full appearance in 16.
Right.
Because that's the one that, of course, it went into second printing.
We're not even talking about second printing; it's fourth printing now.
Fourth printing?
Yeah. So, but right now I'm enjoying the current iteration, the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and I have to say the writer Donny Cates, it's actually pretty funny from what I've been reading. And if you haven't read it yet, go out and check out the book. It's a really good read. It's a really fun read because it's stuff in there that you wouldn't even expect, and it's stuff that's coming out of left field. And I'm like, huh? But when it comes out, it's so funny. But it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. It's just, you got to read it and see for yourself, and you got to make your own judgment call. So
okay, well, my final thing is, in pop media, what do you think of the 2 Ghost Rider movies that came out before the Robbie Reyes version and Agents of Shield? What do you think of the one that came out in 2007 and also the one that came out in 2012?
The one in 2007.
It could have been done better.
It could have been done better. But the one that came out in 2012,
that one, I don't know what happened, but that's where they established where the rider can jump on any kind of vehicle, and that can become the vehicle for the Ghost Rider, and it will have flaming wheels just like a motorcycle or a muscle car or whatever he rides.
But the thing was, the story was still lacking.
I know, and they made some poor choices in terms of creativity, in terms of...
The story was still lacking.
Yeah, and the thing that killed me about
the story was still lacking.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
We'll just leave it at that.
Because it was
lacking.
It was
could have been, it could have been better. And bottom line is,
it was just lacking.
Yeah. There's no other way around it. It's just lacking. I'm just saying, now that Marvel has control of the character for future purposes.
And I'm glad they did, because then they did a hell of a good job on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
With Robbie Reyes.
But I still have to say one final word. The story was still lacking.
In any case, if you want to reach us with any kind of questions or comments, you could reach us at thecomicanthologist@gmail.com. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do so and show your support. And thank you for tuning in.